So when he was in San Isidro, he was allowed to work on the line or la línea. That is what they call the border. And he would sell bread, he would sell cigarettes, he would sell pretty much whatever he was allowed to sell from the police officers that were running the line.
En la noche cuando yo iba a hacer eso, yo tomé un taxi y le dije al taxi, por favor, lléveme a la línea. Y cuando yo me monté, el taxi se volteó y me puso una pistola aquí en la cabeza.
So when he got into the taxi to go to this new spot, he told him, I need you to give me a ride to the line. The taxi driver turned around and put a gun to his head.
A una cuadra después, cuando él me llevaba apuntado, se montaron como 3 personas en el carro.
Okay, so once the driver put the gun to his head, he drove up a block and then 3 people jumped in the vehicle. They tied his hands and his feet, and they took his cell phone. They took anything, his shoes. They took off everything minus his documents.
Ellos comenzaron a darme golpes porque yo me resistí y me partieron por aquí, me partieron aquí. Tengo puñalada aquí en la barriga, y me quería matar, ellos me dijeron que me iban a matar. Y yo les dije que
when he was resisting, the 3 guys, they hit him in the head where he was pointing at, and they also stabbed him in the gut.
Y cuando me abrieron la maletera del carro, habían 3 muchachas en el carro.
He says that they opened up the trunk to the car, and inside the trunk there was 3 girls.
Cuando llegamos a una casa, una casa muy bella, pero yo no pude ver el lugar hacia donde íbamos, pero cuando llegamos sí vi la casa era una casa de personas de dinero, pues.
He says when they arrived at the house, he's like, he couldn't see where specifically they were going. Yeah. But when he saw that house, he says that it was somebody that has a lot of money. It's their house because it was a beautiful house.
Okay, cuando bajaron a las muchachas, el muchacho agarró y me dijo que si yo me la daba de bravo, que si yo era que si yo era, como decimos en mi país, que si yo era alzado, pues, que si me gustaba darle golpe a la gente. Yo dije que no, y la me dijo que me quedara tranquilo.
So when they took the girls out of the car, they took him out as well. One guy approached him and said, "What are you, a tough guy? You like to throw down?" And he said, "No." He goes, "It's better that you don't if you want things to go smoothly."
Entonces esa casa estaba preparada como para tener gente adentro, porque las rejas no estaban así. Normalmente están así para que no entre la gente. Las rejas estaban al revés. Y los cuartos, la cerradura, no tenían de dónde agarrarla por dentro. Y no había ninguna ventana por ningún lugar, solamente un excusado en el medio.
So he says that inside the house, the house was set up to have guests. The rooms, they did not have doorknobs. If they threw you in the room, there was no way you can get out because there's no handle on the doorknobs. There was some sort of structure that's like the rails outside the windows. Usually some properties, they'll have the rails where the bars are bent outward to avoid any intruder coming from the outside in. However, it was bent the opposite way so that there's nobody able to escape from the house.
El cuarto era como de 5 metros por 5 metros cuadrados. Tenía un excusado en el medio y ahí habíamos más de 100 personas.
He says that the room was 5 meters by 5 meters, a shitter in the middle, and there was about 100 people crammed in that room.
Wow.
Sí, había niños, había mujeres, hombres.
There was men, women, and children.
La mayoría eran de Guatemala, de Honduras, colombianos, ecuatorianos y habíamos como 5 o 6 venezolanos.
So he says a lot of them were Guatemalan, Honduran, Colombian. There was a couple that were from Venezuela, but those were pretty much where and a couple that were from Ecuador as well.
Al principio, ellos nos dijeron que ellos nos iban a pasar y que nosotros íbamos a trabajar con ellos allá, que no nos preocupáramos, que no nos iban a hacer nada.
In the beginning, they told us that they were going to help us cross and that we were going to have to work for them, but they would take care of us, that nothing was going to happen to us.
Salir, no había privacidad para ir al baño, no había. Entonces yo le dije, mira, ¿qué está pasando? O sea, si es un secuestro, terminen de decir que es un secuestro, porque para uno ver qué vamos a hacer, pues. Entonces no decían nada y estuvimos 5 días sin comer nada, ni siquiera ni tomar agua, nada, nadie.
He says that we spent 5 days, no food, no water. There was a lot of doubt after a couple of days when they weren't crossing or they weren't doing anything. He said that there was a certain thought in my mind, is this a kidnapping? You know, it would be better for them to let us know what's going on. That way, you know, we know what's happening and not in the unknown.
Una noche ellos se estaban tomando y había unas muchachas que eran muy guapas y ellos las querían agarrar y nosotros hicimos como una barrera y les dijimos que no, pues que dejaran a esas muchachas tranquilas, pero tenían las pistolas y ellos se llevaron a 3 muchachas. Nosotros más nunca vimos a esas muchachas.
He says that there was one night where the guys were drinking and there were some young girls in the crowd where he was. And those guys went for those girls, and him and a couple of the other guys there stood in front of the girls and created a barricade between them and the drunk individuals.
Yeah.
The individuals pulled out guns and they took the girls, and those girls didn't come back.
Cuando teníamos como 6 días, ellos nos llevaron, nunca se me olvida porque fueron hamburguesas de Carl Juniors. Llevaron como 30 hamburguesas de Carl Junior y dijeron en un papel que anotáramos el nombre y la dirección de los familiares de nosotros aquí en Estados Unidos, que ellos iban a empezar a tramitar lo del asilo. Yo sabía que eso era mentira porque eso lo hacen los agentes de inmigración, no esa persona.
Later, those guys, they went out and did a food run and they got them like 30 burgers. In the wrappers, they were instructed to write down the addresses of the family members waiting for them here in the US, that they were going to start doing the immigration process. However, he says that I felt that was bullshit because an immigration officer is going to be handling the administrative paperwork, not these guys who are thugs.
Yeah.
Entonces, yo no di los nombres de mis familiares y varios sí anotaron los teléfonos y empezaron a llamar. Ellos pasaron unos teléfonos donde tú no podías llamar, ellos solamente podías comunicarte con tu familia. A mí no me lo dieron, solamente a un grupo. De ese grupo, todos pagaron, $9,000 pagaba la familia. Y nosotros más nunca supimos nada de ellos.
So they would pass a certain phone and not everybody got a phone call. However, those individuals that were able to make that connection outside, many of them, those family members were contacted and then they had to pay $9,000. But afterwards, he's like, we didn't see those individuals.
Wow. What does he happen to him?
¿Qué tú crees que pasó con ellos?
Como dicen allá, los pozolearon, los hicieron sopa.
He's like, over there, they got a phrase. It says, los pozolearon, which means they made them into soup. They got killed.
Sí, exacto. La posición completa y te pasando que tienes que dar los datos, de la familia. Un día llegó una muchacha muy bonita. Ella llegó y me dijo, vale, tú vas a dejar que te maten por $9,000. Dile a tu hermana que pague. Y yo te prometo que no te va a pasar nada.
So he says, pretty much that's how it works. You either divulge all the information that they're requesting of you, right? And then you'll be able to move forward. Sometimes it doesn't even happen like that because they'll collect the money, but they won't deliver. He's like, for those that only give bits and pieces of information, a lot of times they get threatened. And there was one particular day in which they brought in a very good-looking woman to seduce him. And she was like, hey, you're going to let them kill you for $9,000? Why don't you give them your information that they need? And I promise you, nothing's going to happen to you.
Now, let me ask you, so he said something about there was like 100 people, something like that in the room. I'm just backing up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What was the use of those people? Like from a trafficking standpoint, were those people used for labor? Were they used for organs? Were they used for other things? Like what were they all used for in that period of time when they were all in the house?
Bueno, por ejemplo, en lo que yo vi, ellos dijeron que nosotros íbamos a trabajar acá en Estados Unidos, ¿verdad? Pero a las muchachas que tenían niños, que habían como 9 niños, les decían que iban a pasar a los niños legales por la frontera, que ellos tenían que dárselo y en la noche ya se iban.
He's like, everybody, they were told that they were going to work in the U.S. Now, let me take a moment and talk about the mothers with children. They would separate the children and the moms, and they would say, we have to cross the children first, and then you're going to go. So the moms would give their kids to supposedly cross, and then they were under the illusion that they were going to be going shortly after to meet them on the other side.
Supuestamente, como eran niños pequeños, era fácil pasarlos por la línea legal.
Supposedly, since they were little kids, it was a lot easier for them to pass through the legal line.
Y esos niños más nunca, ellos los volvieron a ver. Supuestamente, me cuenta la gente de ese pueblo que esos niños los tiran por el cerco, por la cerca, con morrales llenos de cocaína, de marihuana, más que todo cocaína, y los mandan a correr y los están esperando en un lugar, un carro, y se los llevan. Eso más nunca lo vuelven a ver.
So a lot of these kids, when they get separated, they get thrown over. They get thrown over the wall or whatever crossing is available, and they have a rucksack that's filled with marijuana and cocaine, mostly cocaine. Once they get to the U.S. side, there's a vehicle that picks up the kid. What they do with the kid, we don't know. And those kids, they're never seen because locals from that area, from that town that know about what happens, they're like, oh, those kids, they'll never find them.
Got it. So those kids that were taken in that house that he was in, the kids are taken and they used to smuggle drugs in, and then only God knows what happens to them afterwards. The girls in that house, they were essentially used for sex. And the guys, it sounds like, were used for what?
Nos tenían encerrados todo el día. Nosotros nos tenían encerrados.
They had us locked up. He's like, men were locked up all day.
Exacto. ¿Ustedes han visto el tamaño de los túneles que hay entre Estados Unidos y México? Son como de 50 centímetros o menos, 45 centímetros, porque por allí pasan son niños.
I translated what you said, Remi, and what you asked, and he says, yes, as far as he can recall, women are used for sex, and the kids, they use them to transport drugs into the country. Another fact that he was mentioning is the pipeline. There's pipes that are running from the U.S. to Mexico, and they're about 45 centimeters wide in diameter. And so a lot of the times the kids are going through the tunnels.
Cuando yo salí de allí, después te cuento cómo yo salí, a mí me comentó un amigo que nadie sale vivo cuando a uno lo secuestran en San Luis Río Colorado. Y por eso nosotros asumimos, bueno, yo asumí, porque a la final, cuando yo estuve allí, quedábamos 3, una muchacha, un muchacho y yo. Y yo vi a la muchacha cómo la mataron. Y el muchacho se lo llevaron y a mí me dieron un poco de golpe y me dejaron en la calle.
He's like, when he got a hold of one of his friends told him in a huge surprise, you made it out of there, because the location where he's at was a location that was known for where they basically would just take the ransom. They would just take the money from that individual's family, but the individual, they would get killed. And he goes, and I was one of 3 people that survived that location, because the last 3 that were left, he goes, it was him, another man, and a young girl.
And what happened? Did he give the information?
Y entonces, ¿y qué pasó después?
Bueno, mi hermana pagó y al otro muchacho le completaron un dinero a su familia y a la muchacha también. Entonces nos montaron en un carro, un Corolla rojo, nos montaron en la parte de atrás, pero siempre con la cabeza así gacha, nunca nos dejaron ver, alzar la mirada hacia la casa. Y lo que sí me di cuenta que había muchas velas y muchos santos y velas así en toda la casa. Cuando nos montaron en el carro, primero bajaron a la muchacha. Cuando bajan a la muchacha, le quitan toda la ropa, todo. Ella quedó desnuda. Y yo pensé que ella iba a salir corriendo. Y el muchacho le dio con el carro, le dio por aquí, por la parte por las nalgas, pues. Y ella cayó, y cuando cayó, otro muchacho que estaba allí le dio un tiro en la cabeza. Yo presumo que le dio un tiro en la cabeza porque nosotros vimos cuando le hizo así hacia el piso.
So when they were leaving to leave from that last location to this other one, they put him, the young girl, and this other dude in the back. Heads were down, and they were driving to this location. But when he got there, he says that there was a lot of candles, a lot of saints all over the place. The girl, when she got out, they stripped her completely naked, and the driver hit her with the car, and managed to get, I don't know what part of her leg, and then she fell, hit the ground, and then immediately after she fell, she got shot dead on the spot. He remembers seeing the individual pointing the gun in the direction of where the woman's body was.
And that was because her family didn't pay, or what?
Yo creo que era porque ella les decía que ella se acordaba de sus caras, que lo iba a denunciar. Ella hablaba mucho. Yo le decía que se callara la boca, que no dijera nada. Yo le decía, quédate tranquila, no digas nada, pero ella hablaba demasiado.
So the girl talked too much, and in one of her moments, she was telling them, I remember your faces, I know what you look like, I'm gonna report you. And he told her many times, hey, don't say anything, you know, you're calling too much attention, you're gonna make him mad, and he feels that because of her mouth she got shot.
No, yo a la final yo tuve que llamar a mi hermana, y mi hermana les pagó, pero no, ella les pagó creo que 8,000. Era uno de los últimos porque yo no quería dar los datos de mi familia.
Right. So he's like, after his beating, you know, he was the last one, and he had to make a phone call, and he did not want to give his family's information. So he did find a way to get a hold of his sister, and she made the transaction and paid $8,000.
Got it. So let me back up for a second. He was beaten, and then he was left for dead. And then when he finally woke up, what happened? Was that all that take place before he was beaten?
After the beating?
Yeah.
Because they realized that, oh, this guy's not dead. You know, he's still around. He was the last man there, and then he actually had to cooperate. Tú tenías que cooperar. Después de la paliza, llamar a tu hermana para que ella haga el pago.
Sí, si no me iban a matar.
Because they were going to kill him. And so he made the phone call. ¿Y qué pasó contigo después?
Bueno, yo agarré y, ¿cómo te digo? Cuando a nosotros nos habían dado unas cartas de jugar, ¿verdad? Y yo estaba pensando, y iba en el carro, iba más o menos como haciendo un pequeño mapa, porque yo dije, yo voy a llegar a esa casa otra vez y yo los voy a denunciar, porque yo suponía algo, y yo en la carta iba marcando con la uña, así, si corríamos para allá, si corríamos a la derecha, a la izquierda, y yo estaba concentrado en hacer ese mapa, para después ver si podía llegar a ese lugar.
He said that when he was at that next location, he had a pack of cards, and on the cards he was etching in a left or right line because he was literally making a map because he wanted to be able to find that location according to what he in his mind was mapping out to be able to report them to authorities.
Yo agarré y cuando dejaron al muchacho, y inmediatamente, como a 1,5 kilómetros me dejaron a mí, me quitaron toda la ropa, yo quedé desnudo completamente. Y ellos agarraron y me dijeron que caminara que corriera por la carretera, y yo brinqué una cuestión que estaba ahí, me fui corriendo. Y ellos empezaron a decirme maldito y me decían un poco de cosas. Y yo corrí, me metí como por una montaña que estaba ahí, corrí lo más que yo pude. Cuando yo vi que ya el carro se había ido y no había nada por allí, yo salí a la autopista. Había una autopista que es la autopista que va de San Luis Río Colorado a Mexicali.
Okay, so he says when he crossed over, basically after that last location, um, he got separated with the last guy that left the house with him. They dropped him off at what is it, a click and a half away. And when he got dropped off, they stripped him butt naked right where he was, and then he ran. They told him to run, and they were just yelling at him, saying all these things to him, and it was that moment where he just took off in a dead sprint. He jumped the border because there was like a wall of some sort. He jumped over, and then he found the interstate, and that interstate takes you from St. Louis, Colorado, to Mexicali.
Got it. And then that's how he got in here in the U.S.
No, bueno, después tuve que quedar un tiempo, me quedé en una iglesia, porque yo estaba en shock, ¿entiendes? Yo estaba que no me sentía bien. Y después en la iglesia, el mismo padre de la iglesia me dijo, pero Andy, cruce y brinque ese muro, que tú puedes brincar ese muro, y te entregan a la autoridad de migración. Y así fue como yo entré.
So he stayed at a church that was right on the border, and the father over there, he's like, well, listen, if you're gonna go, jump that wall that's right there, and then turn yourself into the authorities right there, and then they'll help you. He's like, but if you're gonna do it now. So then he did the leap, and then Border Patrol picked him up.
Got it. That's how you got it. Last question.
Yeah.
For people who say that human trafficking is not real, or kids don't get trafficked for sex, or they're used for drugs or organs or anything, kind of as you described, how the kids were used to move drugs into the US. For those who say that it's not real, whether they're here in America or anywhere else in the world, what would you say to them?
Ok. Mi mensaje para las personas que están aquí y no creen lo que está pasando en la frontera es, señores, es una realidad. Las muertes desde la selva del Darién hasta las fronteras de México son incontables. Los niños, las mujeres que han sido abusadas son incontables. Hay muchas cuentas en Instagram, muchas cuentas en TikTok que dicen cosas, y esas cosas muchas veces son verdad. La gente dice que no, que eso es la gente aparentando unas cosas que están sucediendo y no son, pero sí están pasando, si están secuestrando personas, si están violando mujeres, si están abriendo niños por la mitad para sacarle sus órganos y traficar drogas, si están pasando cosas horribles en la frontera. Yo creo que es un momento de reflexión y es un momento para que la gente tome en cuenta y en consideración lo peligroso que se está convirtiendo la frontera sur de los Estados Unidos para las personas que están pidiendo asilo en estos momentos. No es mentira, no es un juego, es una realidad todo lo que se está viviendo en la frontera.
He mentioned my message to those individuals that don't believe that kids aren't used for drug trafficking or organ harvesting. Women aren't being raped and sold for sex. It's the reality is it is happening. They are doing a lot of things that isn't being showcased. There's some people that have posted stuff on Instagram and on TikTok, made TikTok videos, pretty much trying to show what's really happening, and people think it's fake. It is not. He goes, there is many countless lives of children that have been butchered, and they steal the organs, and a lot of times they smuggle drugs in the bodies. There is countless women that have been raped and murdered and just left on the side. And it starts all the way from down south, all the way up going towards Mexico. It's a real thing that's happening. He goes, if you're thinking about crossing, please understand that the border is not a place to challenge if you're not ready for it, in the sense that there is no asylum. He goes, that it's one of those things that he doesn't wish anybody to go through. That there's a lot of stuff that's happening that he goes, it's scary, to those that don't understand it. He's just saying how it's shocking. I know, with me trying to translate this stuff, trying to get my composure.
Hay grupos de personas en México que tienen agencia de viaje y ofrecen paquetes por la selva para que las personas pasen el tapón del Darién y tomen autobuses y se vengan caminando desde Colombia hasta Tamaulipas, hasta Ciudad Juárez, hasta Tijuana. Ellos son los verdaderos.
So there is travel agencies that are from Mexico that have associates in Colombia that offer travel packages that are for anybody that wants to travel and be able to come to Tamaulipas and check out all these jungle tours, as they call it. A lot of it is a scam to be able to get those individuals to jump on these so-called adventure tours, and right then and there they start asking questions. Hey, do you want to cross? Because we have a deal that we can offer you a safe transit to the US.
Distinta, no con las condiciones como lo ofrecen en esas agencias de viajes en Colombia, que ofrecen planes de inmigración para familias completas a atravesar la selva.
So a lot of times they're crossing people through the jungles of Colombia. They tell families, we have a family deal. So they tell them how much they have to pay, and then they bring these family through these bus tours through the jungle, and they kick them off, which later on they have to find out ways to be able to get other forms of transit out of the jungles. And it's all organized crime. He goes, because they've been also using the promotion that the current president that we have in the US is offering a easy transit into the US because of the open border situation that we currently have. So down south, they're using that as a, hey, guess what? The US is doing this amazing deal, great opportunity for you and your family. We're offering this program because we're also involved in that type of movement to help you get over there.
What would your message be to them, to the American government, American politicians, American people? Because based off of what I'm hearing from you, this modern day slavery of these kids, of these women, these men, drugs, sex, organs, all that stuff, all that is being made possible because of the border. So all of these things are happening because people are just trying to get into America. So what would be your message to the American people, the government, as it relates to all these new slaves being created because people are trying to get into America?
Primero que no todos somos malos, los que venimos. Y que la iniciativa yo la vi como, desde el principio a mí me pareció una migración no controlada, porque las migraciones deberían ser controladas, como cuando llegó el Mayflower con la gente de Europa, cuando la guerra, todo eso, una migración controlada. Lo que está pasando ahorita, cuando tú vienes y ves esa gran cantidad de personas de países tan recónditos como Kazajistán, Tayikistán, y uno dice, oh, tantas personas de tantos lugares del mundo, o sea, debería ser algo más controlado. Yo no le estoy negando la oportunidad a otras personas.
He's like, listen, he's like, I get it that many want to come here. He goes, but one thing that I witnessed was that there was no control at the border. He goes, there was people that were from Kazakhstan or Kurdistan. And he goes, you got all these people that are from all over that are at the border. And he goes, there's no control. He goes, when there's immigration control in Europe and all these other countries over there, you see a sense of order and more control and whatnot. He's like, but over here, you don't see it. He goes, I'm not saying don't come here. He goes, everybody deserves a better opportunity. He goes, but he's like, from what I witnessed at the border, there was no control at the border.
And because there's no control at the border, there's no order, it's creating this vacuum that these nefarious figures are coming in and creating slaves.
Dice, entonces, dado a tu perspectiva, por la causa de que no hay orden en la frontera, eso ha creado que todos esos individuos en posiciones de poder en los negocios sucios tienen más poder porque ahora tienen a más personas que ellos pueden controlar para hacer sus fechorías, para hacer sus trabajos sucios, porque no hay orden en la frontera.
Correcto.